July 28, 1945. Tokyo. A room full of reporters. Prime Minister Kentaro Suzuki, 77 years old, a man who still carries a rebel's bullet in his own body from an assassination attempt 9 years earlier. He steps up to answer one question. What does Japan think of the Potsdam Declaration, the Allied demand for unconditional surrender? Suzuki says one word. Mokusatsu. Three syllables. Two kanji characters. One of them literally means to kill. Within 48 hours, that single word will be read in Washington as a declaration of defiance. Within 10 days, two cities will not exist. But here's what almost nobody tells you. The bomb was already loaded before Suzuki ever opened his mouth. So what did that word actually mean? Was it really a mistake, or something else entirely? And if the decision to drop the bomb was made before Japan even responded, who or what actually caused Hiroshima and Nagasaki? To understand July 28, 1945, you have to understand the machine Suzuki was trapped inside. Under Japan's Meiji Constitution, a prime minister could not govern without an army minister and a navy minister in his cabinet. And here's the trap. Those two men could resign at any moment. And by law, that alone would collapse the entire government. That gave the military an absolute veto over peace. By 1945, War Minister Korechika Anami, backed by General Yashijiro Yamizu and Admiral Somu Toyota, held that veto. And they were not going to surrender. Only one person in Japan stood outside this constitutional trap. Emperor Hirohito. As sovereign, he had never sworn an oath to the Constitution. He was the only one legally free to end the war. But tradition demanded he stay silent, above politics. Suzuki had a rare bridge to him. From 1930 to 1936, he'd served as Hirohito's personal aide. That bond, quiet, wordless, built over years, was the only channel through which the emperor's private wish for peace could move. Around this fragile arrangement, pressure kept building. June 11, 1945, 7 scientists at the University of Chicago issued the Frank Report, begging Washington to demonstrate the bomb on an empty island first, not on a city. They're ignored. July 16, 1945, the Trinity test succeeds in the New Mexico desert. The bomb is real. July 25, 1945, General Thomas Handy signs the formal order authorizing atomic attacks on Japan. This is 3 days before Suzuki even speaks the word Mokusatsu. July 26, 1945, the Potsdam Declaration is issued. Deliberately, it carries no Soviet signature. Washington doesn't want Stalin at the table for what comes after. And crucially, the declaration's early drafts had promised Japan could keep its emperor under a constitutional monarchy. Secretary of State James Burns strikes that guarantee before publication. Without it, no faction in Tokyo, Hawk, or Dove can accept the document as it stands. For Suzuki, the turning point isn't a single tragedy. It's an impossible choice, forced onto him in a single press conference. He cannot say yes to Potsdam. That violates his oath to the Constitution and hands the military an excuse for a coup. He cannot say a flat no either, not while he and Foreign Minister Shigenori Togo are quietly waiting on a response from Moscow, hoping the Soviets might broker a better deal. So he reaches for Harajuku, the old art of saying nothing, loudly. He reaches for Mokusatsu. Here's where the story gets forensic. Mokusatsu breaks into two characters, Moku, silence, and Satsu, to kill or reject. Literally, killing with silence. The pre-war Kinkyusha Japanese-English Dictionary, the standard reference of the era, defines it in 1918 and again in 1931 as take no notice of or treat with silent contempt. The gentler reading, to withhold comment, doesn't enter that dictionary until 1954, 9 years after the bombs fell. Hasegawa Saiji, the domain news agency translator who sent Suzuki's words to the world, later admitted something telling. Japanese political language of the time had no real equivalent for a neutral no comment. The concept itself barely existed, and it wasn't only the one word. Suzuki's full statement, called Potsdam, nothing but a rehash of the Cairo Declaration, said the government found no important value in it, and vowed to resolutely fight for the successful conclusion of this war. There's a precedent for this kind of engineered misunderstanding. In July 1870, Chancellor Otto von Bismarck edited a royal telegram, the EMS Dispatch, changing one word so the French would read a diplomatic snub where none had existed. It helped trigger the Franco-Prussian War. Suzuki's case carries no such deliberate malice, but the mechanism, one loaded phrase reshaping how a nation is perceived, is identical. The confrontation here isn't Suzuki versus a rival. It's Suzuki's words versus the Allied intelligence apparatus reading them. Model it as a signal in a negotiation. The Allies need to know, is Japan's government resolved to fight to the end, or unresolved, ready to break under pressure? Suzuki's statement, paired with his vow to keep fighting, makes the unresolved reading look almost impossible. So Washington updates its belief toward near certainty. Japan intends total resistance. Under that belief, a costly land invasion looks less appealing than a strike designed to force capitulation outright. Meanwhile, the war faction back in Tokyo isn't reading this as manipulation. They're reading it as their own government finally standing firm. For men like Anami, surrender was worse than death. Even a sliver of a chance at forcing better terms through one final decisive battle was, to them, worth everything. The threats here aren't aimed at one man. They're aimed at an entire government, from two directions at once. From inside, the military faction was actively arresting so-called peacemongers, anyone who spoke too openly of surrender. Suzuki and Togo had to maintain a public mask of defiance, simply to stay alive in their own cabinet. From outside, the clock was already running. The atomic order was signed, and 1.5 million Soviet troops were massing on the Manchurian border. Preparing an invasion Suzuki's peace faction hadn't planned for. Each side raised the stakes, and neither side blinked. This was never just a Tokyo problem or a Washington problem. It was a three-way collision. Truman wasn't just negotiating with Japan. He was racing Stalin. A Soviet invasion deep into Japan risked a divided occupation, a Pacific version of divided Berlin. Ending the war fast, on American terms alone, meant everything for the shape of the post-war world. And underneath it all sat a stranger, older thread. Japan's decades-old cryptographic and military friendship with Poland, dating back to shared opposition to Tsarist Russia in 1905. It's part of why, even as an Axis power, Japan never declared war on occupied Poland. That same rigid, honor-bound military culture, a country that hadn't lost a war in 2,500 years, shaped how unbearable, unconditional surrender sounded to men like Anami. To them, surrender without a final battle wasn't diplomacy. It was the death of the nation's soul. Return to that room. July 28, 1945. Suzuki says the word. The reporters file it. Domei's Hasegawa transmits it abroad as ignore. Allied intelligence reads it as contempt. But by the time those wires cross the Pacific, General Handy's order authorizing the bomb has already been signed for 3 days. The press conference doesn't start the countdown. It confirms a decision already made. August 6th. Hiroshima. Even after, the military faction insists it can't really be an atomic weapon. They call it a super bomb, conventional, survivable. A scientific team is sent to confirm what everyone fears. August 9th. Nagasaki. The same morning the Soviet Union launches its invasion of Manchuria. In one stroke, both of Suzuki's strategies collapse simultaneously. With the cabinet frozen in deadlock, Suzuki does something almost unthinkable in Japanese political tradition. He goes over his own government's head, directly to the emperor. Hirohito convenes two unprecedented imperial conferences. For the first time in the war, the sovereign speaks plainly, choosing surrender over annihilation. It is the only voice in the entire system with the legal and moral authority to end it. Japan surrenders. The war ends. And in the years that follow, a comforting story takes hold. First put into words by scholar Kazuo Kawai in 1950, that this was all a tragic accident of translation, one word misread. It's a story both nations find easy to live with. It spares Washington from questioning why the guarantee of the emperor's survival was struck from Potsdam. It spares Tokyo from confronting how close its own constitution came to making peace legally impossible. A messy, structural failure gets replaced by a simple, forgivable accident. The truth is less comforting. Two political systems, built on entirely different assumptions about power, honor, and communication, collided at the worst possible moment in human history. And the bomb was already on its way, regardless of what Suzuki said. If this changed how you think about the words that end or start wars, let me know in the comments. Like this video and subscribe for more stories, where history isn't as simple as it first looks.